Everybody's all up in arms about this DOGE thing. Let's see what this crazy lady has to say about it.
When that much money disappears, it's usually because somebody broke some laws somewhere. But if we don't look, if we don't ask, if we don't uncover it and make it all public, we'll never find out.
We are here to fight back.
Absolutely, purely insane. And then they go on and say, what Big Daddy T, because we can't say his name, and Elon are doing is a constitutional crisis. Well, if you just do a quick search, you get the crazy-ass New York Times talking about it. Trump's actions have created constitutional crisis, scholars say. Yeah. So there's no universally accepted definition of constitutional crisis, and you'll hear that later in a video that someone will use it. But legal scholars agree about some of its characteristics. It is generally the product of presidential defiance of laws and judicial rulings. It is not binary. It is a slope, not a switch. It can be cumulative, and once one starts, it can get much worse. Yeah, well, New York Times, why the fuck do you have simplified Chinese version or read traditional Chinese version as just your default options? They're insane. Don't listen to them. All right, so let's move on. Do you know that there's many versions of Doge in the past? That this is not some unique thing that just came out of nowhere? Let's listen to see what Michael Knowles has to say about it.
I'm going to try to explain something to Republicans. This is why people like me are so upset with DOGE, Elon Musk, and Donald Trump ripping apart three-letter agencies. It's because that power very explicitly comes from Congress. Congress needs to write a bill and sign it, and the president needs to sign it into law to do something like dismantle the Department of Education. And as the executive branch goes on this tirade with some unelected bureaucrat just ripping apart federal funding where they feel like it, not only is it illegal because Elon Musk is just accessing classified information and doesn't have the authority to do that with a bunch of random 18 to 24-year-olds who have never served in government, it's also thrusting us deep into constitutional crisis because as they just go on this conquest, federal judges are saying, hey, you can't do that, you need to stop, and they just keep doing it anyways.
That all sounds well and good until you realize that what Elon has done with DOGE has actually happened many times before, and it was often Democrat presidents who were doing it. So Woodrow Wilson had the Bureau of Efficiency. That was not authorized by Congress. That was just an executive agency, a new executive initiative, much like DOGE, had actually one of the same words in the name. You had FDR with the Brownlow Commission to reorganize the government. You had Truman with the Hoover Commission to reorganize the executive branch. You had Ronald Reagan with the Grace Commission, did much the same thing, also reorganizing the executive branch. You had Al Gore. When Al Gore was vice president, not even the president, he eliminated over 250,000 federal jobs and consolidated 800 departments. Didn't have Congress backing him up on everything. So I agree, there's congressional oversight that's required and some congressional participation to totally abolish agencies. But what Trump and Elon are doing right now is not only good and popular and perfectly legal, it also has precedent in American history going back over 100 years. But this kid's like 12 years old, so he probably doesn't remember that.
Okay, so dumb joke. He talks about things going back 100 years and jokes the kid's young. The fuck, was he alive 100 years ago? Very dumb, Michael. But moving on, let's look at what ChatGPT has to say about what he's saying on if there were multiple different things. And before we do that, why don't we talk about unelected officials that kid was complaining about? We'll get more into this. Let's take a look at this. No one elected Elon. Interesting. Now do Fauci. The government is going to work with the American people. They're going to work with companies like Big Daddy T did, and I'll say his name sometimes by accident, when COVID came out. Shit, can you even say that? He worked with all the CEOs to try and work on the jab, whatever, so we don't get edited on YouTube here. But let's talk about the DOGE commissions he's talking about, and we'll speak more in detail on this later. So were there similar departments? Yes. Previous presidents have established commissions in the past. And then they list it, the Keep Commission. You go all the way down to 1993, which is the most recently listed here, at least the National Partnership. I believe that was one with Al Gore that he was referencing. So these efforts in DOGE, they were all done before. This is not a new concept. Now, Knowles talks about Al Gore, and that was a vice president leading it. And now Trump is having Elon leading it. So, okay, so if he puts Vance above Elon, then who cares, right? It doesn't matter. In the end, they're going to do what is going to be right for us, or so we hope, right? So let's talk about the three things I'm going to go over in this video. And that is, one, why are we doing this? Why do people care so much about these unelected officials like Mr. Big Balls. We'll get into that. And then 3, why is the internal government so worried? Why is Senator Warren freaking out about this? And I think that's the biggest one we as the American people should be worried about. Welcome to the Logical Nimbus channel, where Smoke and Albert and I, Calvin, review topics we find interesting and try and break them out into a very simple and logical mindset. So hit that subscribe button if you want to learn more, and hit the bell icon because we don't know when the hell we're going to upload our videos. Now let's get back into it. So let's get into the first question. Why are we doing this? Well, for one, what are we? $36 trillion in debt? Now, I'm no economics major, or I'm not very good with numbers, but I can tell that's a lot, right? So let's look at that chart. From early 2006, it looks like we're around 5 trillion, okay, going steady, I guess good or bad. It was somewhat flatlining. Then it slowly goes up. We hit 2020, it spikes and it goes up. But you can tell both of these inclined, whatever you want to call this on the chart, they're fairly similar. In the end, it's not good for us. So we should want this. We should want to figure this out, right? We saw Michael Knowles say that there are multiple commissions. We've seen this. We went through the ChatGPT. We looked at the different commissions. So do we need to try something different? Maybe. Is Elon Musk the answer? Maybe. We don't know. But we voted for this. You know that. It's not like we're surprised by all this. They ran off of this shit. So also, some of your other boys, for the little Dems out there, said the same shit. Let's take a look.
Budget reform is not an option. It's a necessity.
The American people are entitled to transparency.
We can't sustain a system that bleeds billions of taxpayer dollars on programs that have outlived their usefulness or exist solely because of the power of politicians, lobbyists, or interest groups.
They're entitled to be able to figure out where their dollars are going, and they're entitled to accountability to make sure that we're using the dollars for what we said it was for.
We are going to go through our federal budget, as I promised during the campaign, page by page, line by line, eliminating those programs we don't need and insisting that those that we do need operate in a sensible, cost-effective way.
What should be easy is getting rid of the pointless waste and stupid spending that doesn't benefit anybody.
We hope to be instilling an entire new culture that not only our administration, but every succeeding administration will in fact pursue.
No amount of waste is acceptable, not when it's your money.
We all know the government can be inefficient. We all know that the bureaucracy can be bloated. We all worked in the fucking White House. We tried to reorganize the government. We tried to find efficiency. It's hard to do.
And honestly, some of this is pretty annoying because it's some of the stuff we should have done.
There you go. I don't know who those two little cucks were at the end, but there they are. I mean, look, this was very normal. The government wants to go line by line. What has Elon Musk been saying? We want to go line by line. The American people want to go line by line. So let's not act like there's some crazy ass shit. This is why we're doing this, to find out where our hard-earned tax money is going. So let's go to the second topic. All right, so let's get into the next question. Why do people care so much about these unelected officials like Mr. Big Balls? Think about it. When you go to the DMV, you're giving them your social security number. They have your address. You don't think that Susan there can't go take that? Or who do you think her boss is? They're not elected officials. They have access to all of that shit. So don't even give me that crap. And again, I want to go back to an unelected official that everyone praised so much, Dr. Fauci. Cannot stand this man. I want to make sure that everyone is aware of what he's done. Let's take a listen.
First of all, I didn't recommend locking anything down. And the record will show, Neil, that we didn't recommend shutting everything down. I recommended to the president that we shut the country down. And that was a very difficult decision because I knew it would have serious economic consequences, which it did. First of all, I didn't recommend locking anything.
God, he is just, I cannot stand that man. Let's see another clip of the beautiful Dr. Fauci who gives the president advice.
Once people feel empowered and protected legally, you are going to have schools, universities, and colleges are going to say, you want to come to this college, buddy? You're going to get vaccinated. Lady, you're going to get vaccinated. Yeah. Big corporations like Amazon and Facebook and all of those others are going to say, you want to work for us, you get vaccinated. And it's been proven that when you make it difficult for people in their lives, they lose their ideological bullshit and they get vaccinated.
That's exactly what you meant when you said making it hard for people to live without getting a vaccination.
You affected people's ability to work, travel, be educated, to actually flourish in American society, to self-determine, as we're all given God-given rights. Shame on you. You inspired and created fear through mass mandates, school closures, vaccine mandates that have destroyed the American people's trust in our public health institutions.
Once people feel...
Yep, that dude is a cuck to the highest degree. So why am I showing you this? Unelected officials are in the government. They can do bad. I don't believe Elon's going to be doing that. Now let's go back to Mr. Big Balls, right? So who is Big Balls? Apparently that's his name that he had on LinkedIn or a screen name he had. I mean, the kid's only like 19 years old. Let's look at the top story. You probably may have heard he's been fired for a cyber leak. Okay, fine. Let's see what his old boss, so his name's Edward Kornstein, was terminated for leaking internal information. A message from June 2022 from an executive at Path Network where apparently he worked. This is unacceptable and is zero tolerance. Yeah, we get it. I can confirm that Edward Kornstein's brief contract was terminated after the conclusion of an internal investigation into the leaking of proprietary company information. Blah, blah, blah. Really what it came down to from what I saw is that in a Discord chat, what they say here, he wrote he had access to every single machine using the online moniker Rivage. The teenager said he could have wiped the company's servers. So basically he goes on these like hacker sites, and that's what he is, right? I mean, I have a story about that. Won't share it now. But it says they never exploited it. He says he never exploited it. The conversation on Discord, he's talking to his little hacker buddies and saying what he could do. And this was in 2022, so the kid's like 16 years old. Who gives a shit? Like, you haven't done anything when you were 16 years old? It's just so ridiculous when everyone's paying this up to be, like, actual professionals. He's a senior advisor, cool, whatever. If you're in the broker world in real estate, you're called the vice president, partner, principal. You basically sound like you run the thing. It doesn't matter. It's just a title. When I was a director of real estate for a billion-dollar company, I had analysts. That's really all this guy is. You can call them what they want. They're going to go collect data. They're going to do the shit that I didn't want to do so I could review it so I can make basically million-dollar decisions on what properties to buy and what to invest in. This is what he's going to be doing. This is a perfect example from the great show The Office.
The green bar is what you spend every month on stuff you need, like a car and a house. The red bar is what you spend on non-essentials, like magazines, entertainment, things like that. This scary black bar is what you spend on things that no one ever needs, like multiple magic sets, professional bass fishing equipment.
How did you do this so fast? Is this PowerPoint?
Okay, the green bar is what you spend.
I mean, come on. That's just, I love that shit. But that's it. He's going to collect data. He's going to make it very simple. And that's literally him talking to the government, like, hey, don't do this. Or he probably won't even do anything. All he's going to do is collect data and present it to Musk or whoever's above him and say, here's what I found, have at it. And then Musk would make recommendations. The reason why I'm harping on this so much is don't believe what the media is saying. You're wasting your energy. This is stupid. The next question is what we should all be really concerned about. On to our final question. Why is the internal government so worried? What are they hiding? Or are they hiding? So there's three groups, right? There's the government officials. They are the people in power. They could be corrupt. I don't like using that word too much. I just think that when you're in power for so long and things just kind of go one way, it's hard to steer the ship back. And while money's flowing, I mean, hell, if you're making money, why stop it? It's just human nature. Bad human nature, but it could be. The other people it affects are obviously the lower government people that are just have a job, have been working very long and hard and not doing anything wrong. I mean, they're going to lose their jobs. That's not good, but hey, it is what it is. And then finally, the people who pay for it, us, the American people, that's who it affects. We should want to know what's going on. And here's a good clip by Jesse from Fox News. Let's take a look.
The whole government's being audited. The Department of Education's being actively dismantled. The Dozers are in the building on the 6th floor, canceling grants and contracts. Nearly $1 billion of wasteful contracts were ripped up yesterday. Like this one. A contractor was paid $1.5 million to observe mailing and clerical operations at one mail center. This guy was observing mail being opened and being sent for $1.5 million.
Now, I don't know that. We, take this for, face value. Okay? I'm not looking at any of this yet.
This is the kind of no-show job a mob boss gives their cousin.
Or Biden gives Hunter.
DOGE also terminated 29 DEI training programs at the Department of Education. worth over $100 million. That comes to $3.5 million for each training program. Most of you've gone through DEI training programs. You're in with HR for an hour? Maybe it's just an online course. Cha-ching, $3.5 million. What? I should have been a DEI consultant. One DEI session trained teachers to force students to recognize their privilege and their history of oppression.
That one gets me pretty good. Whole other video on that for sure. That's like showing up at the dinner table every night and say there's a husband and wife, and the wife cheated on her husband, and the husband's like, just so you know, kids, but your wife cheated on me. Your mom cheated on me. I just want you to know that. And then the next day he repeats it, and the next day he repeats it, and the next day he repeats it. It's just absurd.
Half the classroom can't read, but this is what they're doing. DOGE just shredded 18 contracts at the Department of Agriculture. One of them was for Central American Gender Assessment Consultant Services. We were paying a guy in El Salvador to assess gender. What does that have to do with agriculture? Here's another one. Forest and Gender Consultant Services in Brazil. Or this.
Now, we have to understand, a lot of this money is to stabilize, I know these aren't too close to the United States, but it's to stabilize other countries, because then when they go to shit, we get refugees and things collapse. So again, take this with a grain of salt.
The Women in Forest Carbon Initiative Mentorship Program. You go, girl. Elon says DOGE also canceled a $17 million contract to provide tax policy advice to Liberia. $17 million to help Africans do their taxes. We even paid college tuition for Al-Qaeda. We gave a jihadi a full ride to Colorado State. Here's how the shell game works. You get taxed. Congress sends your money to a federal agency. The agency sends it to a Democrat nonprofit. The nonprofit president takes a fat salary, sends some of it to a subcontractor, and donates the rest to Democrats.
I see a lot of kickback here.
There's a lot of kickbacks.
A tremendous kickback, because nobody could be so stupid to give out some of these contracts, so he has to get a kickback.
Look, if this happens, I mean, and I see what he's saying here. It's like saying in the corporate world where we weren't allowed to take anything from contractors that we hired. But I did find out people on my team went to basketball games, professionally, sitting in the suite. You can't track 10,000, or you can track maybe $10,000 going to an account, but you can't track someone getting a Rolex. This happens everywhere, and that's what they're talking about here.
So that's what I got elected for, that and borders and military and a lot of things, but this is a big part of it. And I hope that the court system is going to allow us to do what we have to do. We got elected to among other things, find all of this fraud, abuse.
We're $36 trillion in debt. Money's flying out the window. None of the departments can pass an audit.
The reason that departments can't pass audits is because the payments don't have a categorization code. It's like just a massive number of blank checks just flying out the building. So you can't reconcile blank checks. You've got comment fields that are also blank, so you don't know why the...
Listen, this is crazy to me, because again, going back to my corporate life, I had 2 Germans sit and grill me for 5 days straight about every transaction I made. Even the concepts, the ideas, what I was thinking of running the team, because I was in charge of a lot of money. And just to hear that these line items are just blank, it's just absurd. And we can maybe go on that in another video or later. But man, this is just crazy to me.
The payment was made. And then we've got this truly absurd, a do not pay list, which can take up to a year for an organization to get on a do not pay list. And this, we're talking about terrorist organizations, we're talking about known fraudsters, known aspects of waste, known things that do not match any congressional appropriation, can take up to a year to get on the list. And even once on the list is not used. It's mind-blowing.
We're literally sending out blank checks that no one can track with no explanation. It's like the system's designed to perpetuate fraud, from USAID to Social Security.
There's crazy things like just cursory examination of Social Security, and we've got people in there that are 150 years old. Now, do you know anyone who's 150? I don't. Okay. They should be on the Guinness Book of World Records. They're missing out. So, that's a case where, I think they're probably dead. It's my guess. Or they should be very famous, one of the two. And then there's a whole bunch of Social Security payments where there's no identifying information. Well, why is there no identifying information?
Why did it take Musk to find out all this fraud? Social Security administrators are dealing, how should I say this nicely, with people who are about to die. Shouldn't they know around when people usually die? If you're still sending checks to a 150-year-old, nothing rings a bell? The whole government.
Man, I don't know. That's all just weird. I mean, look, we should be happy that they're finding this stuff. So that's all interesting. And just like Obama and Biden said, go line by line. That's what they're doing. And this is a very small budget. Again, I don't know much. But according to what I've heard, it's 1%. So wait until they really dig into the bigger ones. This is just the tip of the iceberg. And it's good for the American people. So everyone just calm down. And you really should support this. So my thoughts, corruption. I mean, I really do think that, and I know I said I don't like to say that, but I just think people are set in their ways and they just got ahead of themselves and they're just like, hey, no one's checking us. Well, Big Daddy's home and he's checking you. And here's another clip. We'll end on two other ones before we close this out. But here's PBD talking about what these people were going to do. If Big Daddy T did not get in, this is what they would have done.
So why is it that they are all about hiring more IRS agents to audit you? Whoever's watching this, they want to audit you. They want to find that if you didn't pay $600 in taxes, they want to come and collect it from you. Whoever's watching this right now, but God forbid we audit the wasted expenditure the government has. Oh, no, no, no. We are politicians. We are very good people. We are people that we know what we're doing because we got this fancy degree, but we should audit the people because the people out there are not paying their fair share. What if the government's got a lot of wasted money? What if the government's doing a lot of stuff that we don't know anything about? And by the way, they started off with the USAID. Once they get into, and that was only a $40, $50 billion budget, what are they going to do when it gets into DHS? And what is it going to happen when we get into Medicare, Medicaid? Money's being funneled all over the place. Accountability is on its way, and the American people are ecstatic. So why?
Yep. Like I said, it's a small budget and it's huge. I mean, 87,000 new IRS agents. Just think about this. If we can cut back on our spending, it's only going to help the people. We don't need to have people taking money out of our pockets. We don't need to raise taxes. We could actually lower them one day. It's not going to happen overnight. It's probably not going to happen in the next 4 years, but it could happen in the next 10 years. And this is just the start of it. So let's bring it back full circle. Let's bring it back to everything we now know. Now let's see if that video of Warren freaking out has a new feeling or a new meaning to you.
When that much money disappears, it's usually because somebody broke some laws somewhere. But if we don't look, if we don't ask, if we don't uncover it and make it all public, we'll never find out.
We are here to fight back.
Absolutely insane. And then let's round it out with this. People are saying, yeah, but Republicans, you'll get exposed too. Good. That's what we want. I don't want these people thrown in jail. We could probably just set a limit saying, look, okay, you got caught. Go on with your life. You're probably too old anyway, like Mitch McConnell, whatever the hell his name is. And let's just move on as a country and let's fix this for once and for all. So I hope you enjoyed the video. Please hit that subscribe button and the bell to know when I'll be doing another video. Peace and love.